A new competition, folks, a World League, if you will, is going to be introduced from 2026. That is the news that has come out over the weekend. SANZAAR and the Six Nations are working in partnership to create a new competition. We'll go through what it is, when it is, who's going to be involved, and crucially kind of who's not involved, some positives and negatives, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. So, as you can see on the board, these countries, the Six Nations ones, plus the SANZAAR countries from 2026, starting a new competition which is going to be held every 2 years. So not in the Rugby World Cup years and not in the British and Irish Lions Tour years. There will be essentially a World League competition where these countries play each other less in the form of kind of the tours that we get now, especially the July tours where the Northern Hemisphere teams come down and play a 3-match series against like New Zealand or Australia, South Africa, and more of a World League format. And there are going to be 2 invitational teams as well joining the SANZAAR side of things. I've put Fiji and Japan on the board. It's definitely going to be Japan. You can put the mortgage on Japan being involved, and then one other country. I've put Fiji there for now. I feel like they're the most likely candidate, but I suppose it could be somebody else. So a lot more Tier 1 against Tier 1 fixtures is on the cards. Now, this new competition is going to be owned by the Six Nations and SANZAAR, which does not fill me with confidence because those countries are going to be looking out for themselves, obviously. Trying to make a fair bit more money, and after COVID and whatnot, with so many of them struggling financially, I get why they want to make more money. Doesn't everybody want to make more money? But this doesn't fill me with confidence for the greater state of rugby as a whole. It's all well and good for these countries to play each other and make lots of money, but where does that leave the rest of the world? That is a kind of big old question on my mind. Now, it's not just about the Tier 1 countries, because in conjunction with this news, World Rugby is going to create a Tier 2 competition, which is going to potentially have a pathway for countries to get into this kind of World League competition from outside the initial countries, these 10 plus whoever the 2 are initially chosen. But that's only from 2030, so that's kind of kicked that can down the road. But that is another thing that's going to be set up. So it's essentially 2 competitions being set up, this World League and then a Tier 2 league as well. So, yeah, say goodbye to your July tours, say goodbye to your November tours as they currently stand, and replace them with World League fixtures, essentially is where we're at. Now, I'll admit, when I first heard this news, I was not really chuffed. Any kind of change does not sit that well with us humans. We like things the way we know them. But are there any positives? I do feel like there are a few, believe it or not. Like the fact that there's going to be a regular, consistent Tier 2 competition, I think is a good thing, because especially countries like Tonga and Samoa don't get kind of regular Tier 2 fixtures. There's the Pacific Nations Cup, but it always seems like a bit of a hodgepodge because like some years America and Canada are in it, Japan used to be in it, Tonga never hosts the games. It's not very that kind of well structured, and if they can get some kind of regular competition going, I think that's a good thing. With the Tier 1 teams, I do feel like having the tours and whatnot kind of more organised is a good thing, because from a New Zealand perspective anyway, we never host some countries. We never host Scotland. Never. I think we were supposed to host them prior to COVID for like 1 game. But I don't think we've hosted them for like 20 plus years. We always go to Murrayfield to play Scotland. The Scots never get to come here. So under this new structure, I'm assuming the Scots are going to get to come here at some point. And the Italians, they virtually never come here as well. The Japanese might come to New Zealand. We're quite happy to go to Japan and play them over there and get a nice chunk of change, I'm assuming, out of that deal. But to host some countries other than Ireland, France, England, and Wales, plus the Rugby Championship countries, would be nice for a change from that point of view. It's all a bit ad hoc right now. The new competition will assumingly have a kind of TV deal associated with it, like with all the tours at the moment kind of operating on their own. At least here in NZ, like the France against Japan tour, when Japan hosted France last year, that wasn't broadcast here. So that kind of thing, being a bit more uniformed and streamlined, I can see some positives. But boy, have I got more negatives than I got positives. I should also say revenue sharing. I'm assuming if there's a big TV deal for this, these countries who are kind of out of a SANZAAR and a Six Nations TV deal at the moment will get a chunk of change. So being in one of these two spots is, I think, going to be pretty tasty from those unions' point of view. So those two invitational spots will be like gold, I would imagine, for countries which aren't kind of part of a regular competition at the moment. Now, negatives, obviously the first one is there's going to be less Tier 1 against Tier 2 games, which absolutely sucks. Like Georgia is crying out for more games. They beat Italy last year. They beat Wales last year. Those games wouldn't have happened if there was a World League because they were played in November and July. July they beat Italy and November they beat Wales. Those games just wouldn't have happened. Georgia would have been playing in this Tier 2 competition and get maybe beaten by Samoa, who they played in the was it July? No, November as well. So the less Tier 2 against Tier 1 absolutely sucks because there's already so little Tier 1 against Tier 2 now. Not just Georgia, but other countries as well. I mean, the emergence of Chile, Uruguay at the last World Cup when they got a good win over Fiji. Like, there's countries who need more game time against top-level opposition. They're going to get less of it, which seems absolutely insane for the growth of the game as a whole. It seems very short-sighted. And there's a pathway here for promotion relegation. I've saved this for the negatives because I'm not sure I 100% buy it. Because SANZAAR and the Six Nations own and operate this competition. So let's just say, in one of these years, either, let's say Italy or Wales or maybe Argentina, one of the kind of lower-ranked Tier 1 teams has an absolute stinker. Japan and Fiji have blinders. One of these teams finishes out in the bottom. Are they really going to be relegated to a Tier 2 competition? Really? I'm not sure I'm convinced. If they own it, if these guys are part owners of it, I don't feel like they're going to be happy to surrender a spot in that competition and all that sweet, sweet TV money. I don't buy it. As long as one of these two teams gets relegated, that's fine. But I'm not sure I buy it. It's the kind of thing that I feel like they could find a way to kind of worm their way out of. Also, I don't know how the travel in the July window is going to work. Like, part of the reason you see Wales go to South Africa, Ireland come to New Zealand, and whatnot for a 3-match tour is because New Zealand and Australia and South Africa, they're not that close to each other in the scheme of things. They're all in different time zones. So if you've got to travel to 3 different Southern Hemisphere countries in 3 or 4 weeks, that's a pretty hectic travel schedule. I don't know how that's going to work practically. Someone smarter than me can figure that out. But that seems like a tricky one. Like, there's something tasty also about 3-match series where you get to play the same opposition 3 times. You lose the first game, like Andy Farrell's side did down here in New Zealand, and they work out a way to win the next game. And then the next game, like that constant back and forth, that makes things tasty. So you'll lose some of that kind of 3-match series thing, and then you got the travel factor as well. And also the obvious one that doesn't this take a little bit away from the World Cup? The whole point of the World Cup is, you know, getting that kind of log against all the teams. This is just kind of a mini World Cup. Yeah, for mine, it does devalue what is the Rugby World Cup. I mean, this is just like the Rugby World Cup light, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not sure. It just feels a bit, not that gripping. What can I say? It risks getting a little bit kind of samey. But, we're still missing a lot of details. We still have to wait and see how a lot of this is going to work out. Ultimate take is, though, I do feel like it's kind of ring fencing off the Tier 1 nations and just leaving the Tier 2 nations out in the cold. If anything, I think if there was to be a change, we need to get more Tier 2 teams playing Tier 1 teams. You need to get the All Blacks, I don't know, going to Tbilisi or something. That just, for mine, I know maybe that's a bit naive because that's not the biggest money spinner, and the All Blacks would much rather go to play in America or Japan where there's more money, but in terms of the growth of the game, which long term would benefit more, surely that's where things are at instead of just a quick cash grab. I don't know. as I said, it's not all negative. I can find a few positives of it, but I'm pretty skeptical. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see as more information comes out. If I was a Georgian right now, I think I'd be pretty annoyed, to put that mildly. I almost swore. Or as I said, other tier 2 nations, I don't think I would be very, very pleased with how things are going. But you guys, let us know your thoughts. What else do you think is potentially good about this? Anything else you can see which is negative? How do you see this impacting on rugby as a whole? But yes, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.